Hello, dear listener.
Ooh, that was good. Happy Halloween.
Welcome to the scariest episode of Honestly, Dear Listener.
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer. And this is Honestly, Dear Listener, the Halloween edition.
Honestly, dear listener. Ooh.
I don't know if I've ever heard that voice before. Or what would you call that? Is that Dracula?
It could really be a mummy or a ghost. Or
It sounds like the guy from Monster Mash.
yes, okay.
Monster Mash.
Yes, okay, so last night, I was working in my lab late last night. I'm in Denver right now, and I went to a jam. If you're in Denver, it's at Lot 46 in Edgewater on Tuesday nights, and my friend Blake Mobley hosts. He is the person who I co-wrote Get It Done and Three Dots with, and he produced it. He is a gem. So I went to the jam last night that he hosts at Lot 46, and he did the Monster Mash, and we did he did the Monster Mash. Sorry, that's hilarious.
The Monster Mash.
Yeah, me and my friend Lily did the backing vocals for it, and he did the voice. And another fun moment was, it was kind of funny. We did Spooky. In the cool of the evening when everything is getting kind of that song.
Oh, a spooky little girl like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then it's a jam, so people were soloing, and I decided I wanted to do a ghost solo.
Wait, what did it sound like?
I just did like a woo, like a fun head voicey woo kind of thing. It was fun.
Nice.
But man, the last couple weeks I've been doing things that are kind of scary.
Yeah.
That have huge rewards on the other side. Like, the risk was so worth the reward,
Tell me about it.
I mean, I've done a lot of scary shit the last year and a half with moving, but so much of it has been for other people's art because I'm being hired for it, which is great. But lately I've been doing scary things that are for me to do, that are just mine. And at the end, I'm like, that was so fun. Like last night, I just keep, my love of singing is being restored. It sounds really kind of strange, but I think you can get jaded doing this stuff for money and people. We've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been singing because I like to. And afterwards, I'm like, I love singing. I forgot. So it was so fun. We did Spooky. We did Thriller. We did Superstition. And I just exploded my little heart with joy. It was so much fun.
That's cool.
But kind of scary.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people think, oh, you have to, whatever you're doing, whatever your art is, you have to love that thing all the time. And that's just not true. There are days when I'm like, ugh, I don't like anything. I don't want to do this. Ew.
Yeah.
And it sounds like too for you, there's a period of time where you were like, do I even like this? Do I even want to sing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as cut and dry, I think, as maybe some people would think. And also be encouraged, artists, that if you're like, there are days that I don't even want to do my own art, I think that's really, really normal.
Mm-hmm. And
it's scary, but it's normal.
Yeah. And not beating yourself up about it. I think it's a mindset thing. Also, I just hate it. But it's mindset. I'm like, oh, I feel nervous. Oh, I don't want to sing the song again. Oh, whatever it may be in that moment. And then I'm like, oh, I do like to sing. I get to go sing today. And usually that little shift helps me, but some days it doesn't. Some days I'm like, I get to go sing. Great. I don't want to. Yeah. But I feel some renewed sense of like joy surrounding all of this.
That's
and
awesome.
like that the scary stuff is worth the reward. So that's my Halloween story. And I'm sticking to it.
Please do.
Most years, if I go anywhere for Halloween, I'm just like, I'm the scariest thing I can think of being myself. It's scary in here.
Totally. Here's the thing about dressing up. I love it. I love a good theme. I love a costume moment. I love it. But if I don't have one ready, or I'm tired, or I'm unmotivated, it is like the worst. Because doing a costume halfway, for me, I'd almost rather just not even wear one if I'm not going to go all out. It's the all or nothing thing that I do. So
I just nothing a lot of the time. It's not a lot of all.
That's
when
great.
It comes to getting dressed up. I want to be that way. I was just saying on the way to the gig, I was like, I just wish that I wanted to like really dive into like being a cool lady with a cool look and a cool like whatever. But I'm like, ugh, that's exhausting. I'm tired.
It is.
Thinking about it.
Yes, I agree. Also, you've been doing some scary things with writing your show.
This is true. There are dates coming for this original work.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
That's awesome.
So I've been doing that.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
You keep interrupting me with, you're such a good question asker.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're just so good.
Now I don't remember. Now that you gave me that really nice compliment, I don't even know what I was going to say. Hold on, give me a minute.
Shy now.
Oh, okay.
So you have been writing a short story.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
I have. So it is a story that, okay, so we've been going through The Artist's Way. As I think everyone knows, we're on week like 9 or 10. I don't remember. Anyway, she talks a lot about how, I'm a really good student.
Yeah, it's fine.
She talks about how the universe will supply you with what you need and will give you inspiration and synchronicity and things to create. So I was like, okay. And so one night I was like, fine, give me something then. Universe. I'm all having a bad attitude about it. And then the universe freaking gave me the weirdest dream. And it totally, the next day I got up. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night, made a couple notes on my phone, because I don't want to forget it. Mm-hmm. And then I proceeded the very next day to write this entire short story for this publication that I'm going to be submitting to. The prompt for this specific online publication that I'm submitting to is tell us how you rot. And that's what this story is about. It's about decay and deterioration and those kinds of really Halloween-y things. So I have been editing it.
Yeah.
And I'm submitting it tonight, I believe. Tonight. And it's very Halloween-y. It's very seasonal. So I'm really excited. But it was kind of the way the universe was like, oh, yeah, here you go.
You're asking and you're receiving.
I'm asking. I've written short stories before. This is the first one that I feel like I'm actually really happy with. And so I'm feeling really good about it.
And would you consider reading said story for the people?
Oh, Emily, I can't do that.
Oh, you must. You must.
We've already talked about it before, and yes, he'll read it.
Okay, fine, yes.
Anyway, that's what's going on for me, and it's kind of interesting because it's like once you finally get something done, what I want to do is I want to use that excitement and that energy to catapult me into the next thing. Like kind of like jumping from lily pad to lily pad. Like I'm going to keep, using that energy.
Like the
and
inertia or whatever to
exactly.
keep the ball rolling.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like lily pads though. That's
yeah.
me like picturing you as a cute little frog.
Yeah. So that's the plan. And I'm also gonna see if I can submit it to other things, and then I'll just keep going, baby. Just keep on going.
Yeah.
It really
yeah.
is like playtime. Oh, I remember what I was gonna ask you. Okay, so in the whole creation process of making a thing, what is the scariest part of that whole thing? And I mean, like, let's say you are writing your show. And from concept to talking to producers to putting it on and getting hopefully accolades, whatever, people saying that they liked it. What is the scariest part of all of that for you?
It all feels so scary. Picking the scariest thing for me is like choosing a star in the sky. So many things. So terrifying. So permanently terrifying. That's a good question, Carrie. Okay. I think it would appear just getting stuff started is the scariest part because that's the part that gets so constipated. But it's not. Like, okay, being safe with myself to start making things and have them potentially not be great, that's pretty hard. That's pretty scary.
Yes.
And the evidence of it is the most obvious, like not doing something. Does that kind of make sense? Like, but you know what's really, really scary to me right now, and I'm sure my answer will be different once this is over. I agreed to be in it. So I'm writing it. I'm starring in it. That feels very scary. Because if I could sit in the audience and let someone else perform it, it feels separate. Like, but I'm going to be like doing it. So if people don't like what I'm doing while I'm doing it, it's literally all my fault.
Yeah.
Like the song, the story, the performance, all of it, my fault. If they don't like any of that stuff and there's another performer, there's so much removal from everyone involved where it's like, well, this is rejection and that's hard. But I'm not like also performing. And the performer could be like, I can only do what I could do with this shit script, so they can remove themselves, you know?
Right.
If it's all me, then yeah, that feels really, really scary, but I agreed to do it.
That's like, yeah, that is multi-layered.
This is a very vulnerable story. It's like mostly my life, but like in a kind of fantasy, like weird way. So it's very vulnerable. So that's gonna be scary.
About what the show's about.
Yeah.
That story is very vulnerable. Yeah.
So if people don't like it, they don't like me and my life and how I interpreted my own fucking life. That's scary.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it's also, again, like I was saying, great risk, could lend itself to great joy.
Absolutely.
Or great embarrassment and great crawl into a hole for a few years and then great emerge from said hole. It could be a lot of different things.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Wow.
At the end of the day, it's just a story. And if people don't like 90 minutes of their life, I guess they can go fuck themselves, right? But it's
Are you planning on reading reviews? Because I think that's also very scary.
Are people going to review this?
I mean, don't people from like the local newspaper come out and be like, a night of theater?
Maybe. I don't know. Also, any reviews I've read from people in Northern Colorado have been like, this is what it was about. Isn't that
Right.
nice? The end. Like, they're not like destroying or praising anyone.
Right.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like, what do I think about it?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
really want the process to be like exciting, and like I'm excited to write this. I feel good about it. It's a fun concept. And I think that will lend to more joy on the way. But I have like a year to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to keep that feeling going for a year, you know,
Yeah,
that
that is
healthy
hard. Like
behavior.
with whatever you're making, like I feel like to be an artist is to become a little bit obsessed with your work
Mm-hmm.
because you need that level of kind of obsession
And delusion.
and delusion
Yeah.
a little bit to A, have the confidence to keep going on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
and B, to like, because there's gonna be days when you're not gonna feel like it, but that's when you fall back on like but I'm obsessed with this thing. Like you want something, you want some kind of energy source that's going to provide the inertia
Mm-hmm.
to keep you from engaged from the beginning of the project all the way to the end of the project.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Sorry. Yeah, it's hard. When you're talking about this, I mean, a lot of it, to me, I need a plan. Like I
Yeah.
need I mean, one thing I've been talking to students are turning to clients for me. I've been really zeroing in on what I want to do for people when it comes to coaching. And I've been thinking a lot about the fact that I put energy and time into making a plan for someone, because without a plan, we don't do anything. Without accountability to and a map, we don't and a map, then we don't
Yeah.
we don't do things.
Right.
So I've been like, I need to make a plan. I need to make a map.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, okay, so I'm going to be doing these things. Here's the kind of calendar that I need to lay out. Here's how all this is going to work. And then physician heal thyself, coach myself through this process as though I weren't me.
Right.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, I think that coming up with your own schedule, providing yourself with your own structure is so scary. Like
It
I
is.
want a teacher to do that. I always had a teacher to do that. Whenever you're in grade school, middle school, high school, college, whatever it is, you're always provided on the first day with a roadmap, a structure for your time.
I need a life syllabus.
Exactly. And then whenever I try and make my own syllabus, then I'm like, oh, I wrote that. So it's not even real. Why? Because I wrote it?
Yep.
Like, no. So I think that creating my own structure and my own schedule is hella scary.
Mm-hmm. Well, because then, like, you can let yourself down.
Yes.
And you can, or worse for some people, you could like do it and succeed at it and then be like, oh my God, I have to keep doing something like this. You know, it's, I know that's weird, but I think a lot of people, hold on. You can just get it, Mom.
Rita. Hello. She's all crawling in the background.
My mom's here. We should just leave that in. If you're listening, my mom just walked by and blew Carrie a kiss and got something out of the fridge. I think a lot of people are more afraid of success than failure.
100%.
I don't know. I think I've talked about this before. I've recently realized that I might actually be afraid of success.
Yep.
And that's so weird. I've never understood that conceptually, but I think it is like what if I get stuck doing something because I succeeded at it? So what if I make this syllabus, right? And I do this whole thing and I make this whole show. And people are like, it was great. And I succeeded and I put it out there and people are like, it was awesome. And I'm like, I hate writing shows. I hated all of this. And everyone's like, but you're this person now. And I'm like, no, I'm not. As though I don't have any control over what I do after. Like the people,
Right.
they're making me sing. Like, what am I?
Yep. Yes. Yes. 100%. Or publishing your first debut novel and the publisher. And that's when okay. I think what you're talking about here is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about like, I'm in it for the joy, and then success comes along, and with success comes the business of the thing. And the business of the thing means fans and money and contracts and expectation and like advances that you have to pay back if you don't do the work, et cetera, et cetera. Like all of that really scares me. I am so scared of putting out a fantastic debut novel and then everyone's like, great, now for your next book, your sophomore novel. And then all I hear in my brain is crickets. And I have the whole engine, the whole machine of the business and the fans behind me going, when? Oh my gosh, is it going to be good? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be good? And me going, I got nothing.
And like Harper Leeing yourself, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know that reference, To Kill a Mockingbird's author, Harper Lee, who wrote basically nothing after that because she was so scared that the next thing was going to suck that she just didn't write anything else. You see, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't think I'm afraid of that success. I don't know. It just feels more like, don't expect things from me at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like what if I just hate this and I don't want to do it? Like,
yeah.
Or I finally, maybe it is that, like maybe I finally get into a place where I feel joyful and I do a thing and then I discover later I don't like it anymore and it ruins everything. Like, I don't even know. I don't think I can even put it to words. Digging in your brain is like weird because one of my friends was just saying he's afraid to listen to the podcast because he's afraid he's going to like listen to it and start unearthing stuff that he really needs to keep buried or else he won't be able to function.
This podcast?
Yes.
Yes. I understand that. Not with this podcast, but with other things. And I'm like, I probably should listen to that, but it's gonna open Pandora's box.
I do think that's fear of success also. Like, what if I actually like unearth some stuff and I have to actually like heal from things? That feels scary. It's a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Just reminding you.
Yeah, it's interesting. The fear of success almost, it paints us in such a powerless light. Like, we are successful and then we have no choices. We have no choices. Like, we forget that at any point we can be like, I don't want to do this again.
We can pull an Adele. Be like, I'm
Absolutely. Done. Wait, Adele's done?
She's retiring.
Are you freaking serious?
For the foreseeable future.
Oh, she'll be back.
But she doesn't have to.
That's true. She does not have to.
She's like, I want to be a mom to my kid.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
She was, 19 when she blew up? So,
wow.
Yeah, we could always pull an Adele. I also love the optimism, though, of success that, like, so many people don't even start because they're like, well, then when everyone loves it, what am I going to do? Like, or if everyone doesn't love it, what am I going to do? It's like, just fucking go, right?
Right.
I just like that I often will plan my like astronomical success and then be like, what will I do with all of it?
Yeah.
It's probably not a thing. Like, I'm probably going to like do this show. And some people will be like, that was cool. And some people will be like, that was dog shit. And then I'll be like, I did a show. Okay, bye. Like that's
But
probably
see,
what's going
that's
to happen.
where we think that we tend to get really precious with the things that we make, and they are precious. But who's to, I mean, I do. Every short story or book or whatever that I sit down to write, I think this is going to be the one. This is my magnum opus. Everything rests on this. When it's like, no, you get done with that. You have a great time. You edit it. You send it out. Cool. What's next? Like, you're not going to live at this lily pad. Some people do, but I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to miss out on what can I learn next.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're staying at one lily pad, i.e. with one show or one book or whatever, Harper Leeing it. I mean, and we don't know, I should say, I don't know Harper Lee's reasons.
We're not villainizing Harper Lee.
I'm not trying to villainize her.
Yeah.
But if those who don't do something because they're scared, then they don't do anything else. And what a waste. Like, you could keep going and you could keep having fun if that's what brings you joy. And
or maybe she's just like, I don't even want to deal with it. But yes, but limiting yourself because you have the fear of the next thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would expect, if I were you, I would expect to write the thing, play in the thing, do the show, and then immediately be like, maybe not starting on something new, but thinking about it. Being like, okay, what now? Mm-hmm. What new lily pad are we going to go to? And then if it blows up and people keep pulling your attention back to the lily pad back there, then you go, oh, okay, cool. Let's talk about that. But that way we're not putting so much weight on each lily pad that we end up sinking.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Let's keep going with this metaphor. It's working out.
I did.
So,
yeah.
Because I publish a book. Cool. What's next now? Well, what's next is you get to play again. Mm-hmm. You get to do just slightly different storyline. Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm down. Yeah. I don't know. Just my thoughts. I could be completely full of shit.
No, I think this tracks, like with the synchronicity thing we were talking about. I was talking to a person I'm going to be working with soon about, perfectionism and all that stuff. And he's like, it's like I have a steak, because he won't finish a song right now. He's like, he's like, it feels like buying an expensive steak, and then you buy the seasonings, but you've never made a steak before, really. And you're so afraid that you're going to ruin the piece of meat. And I'm like, but you're letting it rot on the counter. Mm-hmm. And so if we're putting so much weight on something, I like the idea of a meal. As creatives, we need to keep doing things. It's like eating. The meal we're having right now, we could enjoy, knowing that we'll have another meal later. We could not enjoy this and no, we'll have another meal another time. There will always be more things that we're going to have. This isn't our last meal. Right. This isn't our last thing, but putting too much weight on something as this has to be the thing. Right. Is that's a lot of pressure for one meal.
It's totally a lot of pressure. And
this must be the best steak ever. No, because you're going to eat a lot more in your life. And it's like making stuff. So it doesn't have to be the best steak ever. You can have steak in a couple weeks. You can have steak in a few years. Whatever that means for your project.
I like that. So let's not be so precious about our work. I mean, the work is precious, but get it done, get it out, move on, repeat.
Yep.
I mean, that's all that is practice. All we're doing is practicing. We're not arriving. It feels like we're expecting to arrive, but we're not. It's all practice.
And being present in the moment that you're making the thing, instead of planning what's going to happen if this fails? What's going to happen if this succeeds? What's going to happen?
Right.
If, what's going to happen if you don't sit your ass down and write it? Nothing,
Right.
Speaking of writing.
Yeah.
I want to hear the story.
Oh, okay, Emily. The Inheritance by Carrie Schaefer. Look, Dan, our old house is for sale. My mother tapped her index fingernail on the car window. In the driver's seat, my father swiveled his head around. Well, would you look at that? He cried. I wasn't interested in houses or much of anything, really. Draped on the back seat, I had taken off my sandals, stretching the tip of one toe toward my mother in the front seat. The toe barely missed her sleeve. I let my leg thunk to the floor. The long morning with long sermons had made me more sluggish and stupid. Every week was the same. We would drive home and do whatever we usually did on Sunday afternoons. I didn't care. It was all the same to me. The sign says it's an open house, my mother said. Wouldn't it be fun to go inside and take a peek to see how it's changed? As if in answer, my father pulled the car alongside the curb. No other cars were in sight. I said, opening one eye. I didn't know why we had ended up in that part of town. It wasn't on the way. I let my eyelid fall. I'll stay in the car, I said, a yawn drooping the corners of my mouth. Right here. Standing before the front steps, I didn't recognize it. And then, like a PR rep rearranging her face before a press conference, my brain slowly assembled the picture. Or maybe it was the house itself clicking into place. And there it was, our old house. It looked different, though, but I couldn't tell how, and I didn't much care. I was cold and tired, and I wanted to lie down again. Do you think we should call someone, let them know we're coming? My mother hung her hat on rules. I think we're good, my father said as my mother's mauve kitten-heeled pump clicked on the front step. At that moment, a steady ticking sound cracked in my brain, as if a clock had invaded the space behind my eyes. Cold panic sank its nails into my skin. The countdown had started, but I didn't know to what. All I knew was that if the timer ran out, something terrible would happen. I was wide awake now, the tick, tick, tick pulsing my sternum. Desperately, I scanned the front yard for movement. It might come from anywhere. My attention snapped around the sound, and I felt its birth. The panicked realization that everything before this had been a sleepy lie, and that this crouched, hunted feeling might be the only real thing I'd ever known. We were two out in the open on the porch. I think we should go inside, I said. My father pushed on the front door, and it swung open. I shut the door hard behind us and yanked on the deadbolt, the heavy lunk sound of metal hitting wood. Immediately, the ticking stopped, and relief blew through me. The room was dim and empty except for a few small trinkets on the fireplace mantel, and it smelled faintly of chewing gum and dust. We stood like penitents, paralyzed with holiness. The air felt like both a wedding and a funeral, and it made my bowels tingle. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mother finger the silver cross around her neck. Then, remembering why they had come, my mother's heels broke the silence as she clicked across the floor to the kitchen. They've totally redone it, she gushed, running her hand over the farmhouse sink. I love it, and this looks like American beige, she said to the cabinets. If my mother knew anything, it was interior paint colors. Doesn't look like an open house to me, I said. They swept through the house, clucking over all the improvements, better flooring, top-of-the-line fixtures, and tasteful additions, all in their style. I sure do miss this house, my father said. Oh, Dan, my mother fondled the molding around the door. Me too. This made no sense. My parents had always talked about how moving from this house had been one of the best decisions they'd ever made. Dan, look, it's your mantle. Following the script of manhood, my father had stumbled into woodworking long ago. The result of much grunting and many dad-nabbits was a scrolled, blonde oak mantle he had proudly bolted over the fireplace in the living room. It's a testament to your craftsmanship that it's still here, my mother said, her words caressing him. He gave the mantle a pat as if he were stroking his own leg. Beth, this might sound, I don't know, crazy really, my father said. But do you think we should? I know, she interrupted, once again fingering her cross. I feel it too. We've been faithful to him, and now he is giving our house back to us. Like an actor in a musical breaking into song, my father raised his hands and proclaimed, God, we accept this house as a gift of blessing from you. If this is to be, open the door. He meant figuratively, of course, but as if in response, the front door swung open. No one was there. Immediately, the ticking began again, each tick a nail in my brain, and I scrambled to close and lock the door. My parents tittered. I know I had locked that door. It had all happened so fast. He carried her across the threshold, the two of them laughing and bumping around like drunks. I backed into the house behind them, eyes wide and ever shifting across the yard, the ticking pounding through my whole body. I shut and locked the door, and the ticking stopped like a faucet. From then on, I was always checking the outside doors, and more, I found them consistently unlocked. Folks, I gesticulated with two fingers toward the doors like a flight attendant. We really need to be better about making sure the doors around here stay locked. And like frequent flyers, they talked on through my speeches. On top of the improvements, the house was slightly different than I remembered it. For example, I could have sworn my bedroom closet had been closer to the door to the hall instead of to the window. I felt around inside the window wells for the screw holes from my old shutter hinges, but I found nothing. I tried to find any evidence besides the mantle of our having lived in the house before. A curl of old wallpaper, a gouge in the floor, a stick-on earring forgotten in a closet. But I found nothing. I noticed things starting to creep. I made a list of measurements of where the furniture was in relation to the walls and other furniture. A dresser that might be 8 inches from the corner at 10:43 a.m. might be 9.5 inches away at 7:21 p.m. the next day. The creeping gave way to seismic shifts. The master bathroom and closet switched places. I discovered an entirely new bedroom in the den closet. Can a house do that? I asked my parents, who kept on reading in their newly discovered sunroom. One afternoon, while my mother was dusting around the trinkets on the mantel, I asked, Are you going to take all those strange things down? They're not ours. There was a small wooden box, a glass ashtray full of bits of eraser, a snow globe with a blue boy, a brick, a small cushion in the shape of a cloud with pins stuck into it, and a dozen or so brightly handled children's scissors stuck in an empty aluminum can. You know, I don't know why, but all those things up there give me comfort, my father said, looking up from his Bible. They are funny little things, aren't they? My mother rolled her rag around the top of the snow globe. I don't have the heart to take them down. Then don't, my father laughed. Let's just let sleeping dogs lie. Which I thought was a strange thing to say because I didn't think it pertained to the situation at all. Then we discovered the basement. I've always wanted a basement, my mother sang on the stairs. My father's voice called from the basement bathroom. Seek and ye shall find. Don't you think it's weird this house never had a basement before and now it does? I asked. It's a kiss from heaven, my mother sang as I shadowed her up the stairs. Gradually, they started spending more and more time at the house, leaving only for provisions and church. I stopped recording the measurements as pieces of furniture shifted all around the house or disappeared entirely. The floor started to feel gummy, and I didn't like the feeling on my feet, so I floated above it instead. I'd been floating for a couple of days before I remembered people don't usually float. I had become even more vigilant about the door locking, but it was getting harder and harder to lock them. My hands were starting to lose their definition, and objects passed through them. Bodies are supposed to be solid, I repeated out loud to myself. Of course they were. I had nearly forgotten. I had to focus hard on making my hand a hand, or else the deadbolt slipped through my fingers. Between all the locking of the doors and the trying to stay solid, I was getting really tired. At dinner, my parents stood up, holding hands, and leaned their foreheads against the wall next to the dining room table. God, this house is our inheritance, our spiritual birthright, and we thank you for it, my father said, his voice muffled by his mouth's proximity to the wall. I wasn't paying attention to them. I was trying to keep the chair underneath me and the fork in my hand. My parents stopped leaving the house altogether, and we ran out of food, which was a relief to me. I was exhausted by having to stay solid enough to hold food in my mouth and chew. They started spending more time in the basement, curled on the sofas. Eventually, they only came upstairs at dinner time, when they would lean their foreheads against the dining room wall, always in the same spots. The parts of the wall with which their foreheads came in contact started to change color, morphing from American beige to something that looked like a rash. One evening, I noticed several long, straight black hairs growing out of the wall near my mother's head. Horrified, I studied my parents in profile and noticed their foreheads now stuck into the drywall. They were sinking headfirst into the inside of the house. I tried throwing my arms around their waists to pull them back, but I ended up hugging myself as my arms slipped through their bodies. No! I shrieked, but my voice came out high, thin, and whispery, like a flute played with too little air. I backed up as far away from them as I could and bumped into the mantel. I turned and raised my hands to touch it, the only thing that had stayed the same, feeling for its realness, but my hands fell through it. Frustrated, I slapped at it, willing myself to become substantial again. Instead, I pushed farther into the fireplace and the wall behind it. I stopped once I was in between the walls. My parents were lost to me. I was awake and alone, the realization doubling me over in pain. And that's when I heard the small clicking of mouth sounds. I looked up. Between the walls and about 10 feet away from me, something glistened. Relieved not to be alone after all, I instinctively reached out and my hand rested on the thing instead of falling through it. It was warm and wet, and when I touched it, it gave a great groan as if its heart were breaking. Its breathing was labored and waterlogged. Its flayed face was turned toward me, crushed into the shape of the space between the walls. Great tears rolled down its twisted cheeks, and I realized the thing was made of meat. I sought and I found, the thing said. And then I saw that about a foot away, melted into the wall of flesh so that I couldn't tell where one started and ended, another face wept. "It's our inheritance," it said through broken teeth. Then all their mouths started moving, and they all started to speak at once, and I tore away from them as if I too were drowning. I watched my parents disappear slowly into the wall. It could have taken a month or a decade. I know where they've gone, but I don't dare go in between the walls near the living room. I found a silver cross on the mantel next to the snow globe. I never look at it. I can't go outside. It might come from anywhere. I stay away from the doors. My hands can't lock them anymore. I hide in the walls near the mantel, but as far away from the things as I can get. But it is starting to be so awfully hard to hold things in my mind when it would be so easy to put them down. Sometimes I find myself floating from room to room, wailing, remembering how full I used to be, but not knowing of what. And I don't know why I'm crying, or what I was doing, or who I am at all.
Whoa.
Happy Halloween.
That was amazing.
Thanks. So seasonal, right?
Yeah. Oh, I want to cry. It was so good.
Thanks, friend. It's very kind. Friends, we're so glad that you decided to spend your Friday with us or whenever you're listening to this, and we hope you had a wonderful Halloween.
Goodbye.
Honestly, dear listener.